Captain Elias Trent had seen many battles, but he had never seen a ship like this before. It wasn't built for war or speed. It was a large, slow-moving vessel with patches of welded metal holding it together. What caught his attention, though, wasn't the poor condition of the ship. It was the signal it had sent out. A universal emergency beacon, but not automated. It carried emotion, fear, and something else he hadn't heard in years. A plea. A voice begging for protection. He couldn't. Ignore it, his military escort protested. This wasn't a priority. The ship had no strategic value. But Elias was not the kind of man who left voices unheard. He changed course. As his cruiser approached the distressed ship, his sensors picked up no weapons, no defenses. Just life signs, dozens of small life signs. Children. Alien children. He docked manually. The airlock creaked open. His boots hit the floor of the refugee ship, and the first thing he saw was chaos. Lights flickered. Alarms blinked without sound. The hall smelled of oil and something metallic, but then they appeared. Small, wide-eyed alien children, each with green skin, long ears, and frightened faces. None older than 10 in human years. They huddled in groups, clutching one another in silence. Then she stepped forward. She wasn't like the children. She towered over them. Her skin was deep blue with glowing lines across her neck and arms. Her armor, though dented, shimmered with ancient design. Horns curled from her head, red and sharp like a crown. Her eyes met his, calm and calculating, yet there was a fire behind them. She stood between the children and him, ready to fight, with her bare hands if needed. "I'm their guardian," she said. "If you've come to harm them, you won't survive me." Her voice wasn't just strong, it carried weight, like someone used to commanding warriors. But Elias didn't raise his weapon, he dropped it. Slowly, carefully, he removed his helmet. His face was calm, but firm. "I'm not your enemy," he said. "I'm the only help you've got." Her eyes didn't soften. Not yet. But she didn't strike either. That was a start. The refugee ship was failing. Power reserves were low. Food was nearly gone. The ship had escaped a war zone 2 solar days ago. According to the Guardian, a powerful empire had targeted their homeworld. Not to conquer it, but to erase it. Their species had no soldiers, only protectors. She was one of the last. They called her Vaelya. Elias worked fast. His crew brought emergency supplies. They patched the air filters and rerouted power to life support. But they had a problem. The empire that destroyed Vaelya's world had tracked the refugee ship. They were closing in, and now Elias had put his own ship at risk by answering the call. Command ordered him to retreat. He refused. "They're children," he told them over the comms. "If we leave them, they die. If I have to stand alone, so be it." Vaelya watched him speak those words. For a moment she saw something rare in humans. Conviction without reward. Strength without cruelty. It made her look at him differently. That night, while the children slept in the hold, Elias and Vaelya stood by the viewing. Decant stars shimmered beyond the glass. She spoke about her people's culture, about how they once danced in the starlight, how the children were all that remained of a peaceful world. Elias didn't say much. He just listened. And that mattered more than words. But the quiet wouldn't last. The enemy was near. One of their warships had entered the system. Elias knew what he had to do. He wasn't just going to protect the children. He was going to fight for them. The warning alarm echoed through both ships. The enemy vessel had locked onto their position. It wasn't just any scout ship. It was a cruiser built for fast strikes and clean kills. Vaelya looked at the screen with tight fists. Her people never stood a chance against these ships. That was how their planet fell. One by one, cities burned, and the skies turned black. Her heart pounded, but she didn't show fear. Not in front of the children. Elias stood tall beside her. He had faced death before. He had lost soldiers, friends, and even faith in his commanders. But looking at the frightened alien children huddled together behind makeshift barriers, he felt something new. a duty that had nothing to do with orders. "We can't outrun them," his pilot said. "They're faster, better armed. One wrong move and they'll tear us apart." "Then we don't run," Elias replied. He turned to Vaelya. "If they board this ship, you take the kids and seal yourself in the lower decks. I'll hold the line." Vaelya tilted her head. "You would die for children not your own?" Elias didn't blink. "I would die so they don't have to live in fear." She studied him again more carefully this time. There was no deception, no hidden motive, only fire. He reminded her of someone she once knew, a commander who fell defending the last evacuation ship. That man was a legend in her culture, and now this stranger was doing the same. "Then you won't stand alone," she said. She walked to the weapon locker and pulled out a curved spear. Not advanced, but forged from the core metal of her homeworld, a symbol of protection. Elias gave her a nod. Together, they prepared. The human crew worked fast. They welded defensive barriers across the corridors, set up auto turrets, and rerouted power to shield generators. The refugee ship was never designed for battle, but with enough grit and courage, it became a fortress. As the enemy ship drew closer, it sent a message. Cold and simple. "Surrender the aliens, you have 1 minute." Vaelya looked at Elias. He smiled. "They'll get my answer soon enough." He turned to his comms officer. "Send back this transmission. Just 2 words." The officer nodded. "Which words, sir?" Elias leaned forward. "Come try." The enemy ship didn't wait. It launched a barrage. The human vessel rocked under the first blast. Shields held, but barely. The corridor lights flickered. Sparks flew from the ceiling. "Shields down to 47%, someone shouted. The enemy began to board. Heavy boots echoed through the airlocks. Tall, armored figures stormed the halls with plasma rifles. But what they didn't expect was resistance. Elias opened fire first, moving with trained precision. He wasn't just a captain, he was a warrior. Every step he took was deliberate, every shot placed with deadly purpose. Then Vaelya joined him. Her spear sliced through the air with elegance and fury. Her movements were fast, graceful. Where Elias held the line with fire, she danced through it like lightning. The enemy didn't know how to respond to a human and an alien fighting side by side. They staggered. One fell, then another. Behind the barriers, the children watched with wide eyes. Some had never seen Vaelya fight before. Others had thought she was only a guardian in title. But now they saw the truth. She fought like her life didn't matter. Only theirs did. Elias took a hit to the shoulder. He stumbled. Vaelya was there in a second, blocking another strike, helping him back up. He looked at her, bleeding but grinning. "I thought you were guarding the children," he said. "I am," she replied. "You're one of them now." More enemy soldiers poured in. Elias knew this was just the start. But something had shifted, not just between him and Vaelya, but inside the ship itself. It wasn't just a rescue mission anymore. It was a war for hope. The corridor was thick with smoke and sparks. The smell of metal and plasma filled the air. Elias wiped blood from his brow, his injured shoulder screaming with every movement. He didn't stop. The enemy was still coming. More soldiers were, storming in through the breach point near the engine bay. If they reached the heart of the ship, it would all be over. Vaelya stood beside him, her armor scorched, but her posture unbroken. Her glowing markings pulsed brighter with each breath, as if her body itself was rising to match the battle. Her eyes scanned the floor ahead like a hawk, waiting for the next wave. She was calm, sharp, and deadly. Behind them, the alien children were being moved deeper into the ship. Human crew members guided them carefully, speaking softly despite the chaos. One little girl looked back at Vaelya and tugged her ear nervously. Vaelya turned for just a moment and gave a nod. It wasn't much, but it was enough. The girl turned and ran to safety. Secondary breach near cargo deck. Elias's comms crackled. He cursed under his breath. They're trying to split us. Vaelya stepped forward. Then we split them first. She took off running toward the next hallway. Elias followed without hesitation. They moved through the narrow corridors like lightning. Elias firing shots down one hall while Vaelya leapt over broken crates and landed hard against the bulkhead wall. She struck an enemy soldier in the throat with the blunt end of her spear, then spun to block two more. Elias covered her flank, shooting between her movements, each shot precise and deadly. It was like they had trained together for years, though they had met only hours ago. Something about this fight, this moment, was pulling them into perfect rhythm. They reached the cargo deck just as the enemy breached it. The blast threw open the outer door, and soldiers marched in with heavy boots and sharp commands. One pointed at Vaelya. That's her, the Royal Protector. Elias looked at her in shock. Royal? Vaelya didn't answer. Instead, she charged. Her spear met the first enemy with force. It cracked through his armor and sent him crashing into a stack of metal crates. Elias followed her, firing at their flank. The battle was tight and brutal. Blades clashed, guns flashed. Shouts echoed through the metal walls. Suddenly, one of the enemy soldiers pulled a thermal charge from his belt. He's planting it on the reactor, Elias yelled. Vaelya's eyes widened. Without thinking, she sprinted. She leapt into the air, flipped over the soldier's head and slammed her spear down through his arm. The charge rolled away harmlessly. She landed hard, breathing heavily. Elias stared at her. Remind me never to fight you. Vaelya turned to him. Then never become my enemy. A silence fell for a moment. Then, Elias spoke softer. You didn't tell me you were royal. I'm not anymore, she replied. I gave that up the day I chose to protect the children instead of fleeing with the nobles. He looked at her differently now. She wasn't just a warrior. She had walked away from power to save lives. That meant more to him than any title. Suddenly, a voice rang out from the bridge. Captain, incoming fleet, 4 ships bigger than the last. Elias clenched his jaw. They're not here for the children. They're here for her. Vaelya stepped beside him, wounded but unshaken. Then they'll have to take me, she said. And they'll have to get through you first. He met her eyes and nodded. Let's give them a reason to be afraid. Outside, the stars shimmered with danger. Inside, a human and an alien stood side by side, not just as allies, but something more, something the enemy hadn't prepared for. The enemy fleet moved like sharks through the stars. 4 warships, sleek and dark, drifted into formation around the refugee vessel. They didn't open fire. Not yet. They were circling, studying, waiting for weakness. Inside the ship, Elias stood on the command deck. His arm was now strapped with a brace, the wound from earlier finally treated. The pain remained, but he pushed through it. His focus was on the screens in front of him, movement patterns, weapon readings, and long-range scans. The enemy wasn't rushing in. That made him uneasy. Vaelya entered the bridge silently. Her armor had been cleaned, her tribal markings still glowing softly under the deck lights. She stepped beside Elias, her eyes scanning the enemy ships. They're not here to destroy us, she said. No? Elias raised a brow. They want me alive, she said, and they'll wait until they're sure they can separate us. He turned to face her. So what are you, really? Because I'm starting to think you're not just a guardian. Vaelya hesitated. Then, for the first time, she looked tired. I was part of the High Guard, she said. We were chosen to protect the royal bloodline. But when the capital fell, I disobeyed my orders. I chose the children over the throne. Elias studied her. And the crown? She met his gaze. Still sees me as a traitor, but the enemy sees me as a threat. He let that sink in. The woman beside him wasn't just protecting the children. She was the last piece of a broken world, and the key to rebuilding it. That's why they hunted her. That's why they feared her. A voice came through the comms again. Captain, enemy fleet is broadcasting a message. Visual feed incoming. The screen flickered, then filled with the image of a pale alien commander. His armor was polished like glass, his eyes sunken, but sharp. Behind him were banners marked with the crest of conquest. "Human vessel," the commander said. "You are protecting a war criminal. Surrender her now and we will allow your ship to leave unharmed." Elias stepped forward. "You came all this way to threaten a woman who carries no weapon?" "She carries rebellion," the alien said coldly. "And those children she guards? Future enemies. We cleanse threats before they grow." The screen went black. The bridge went quiet. Elias turned to Vaelya. "They're afraid of you, not because of what you've done, but because of what you still could become." Vaelya said nothing, but her eyes betrayed emotion, pain, pride, and something else she hadn't shown until now. Trust. "I have an idea," Elias said, "but it's risky." He walked over to the navigation terminal. "Their ships are too many. We can't win a direct battle, but we can move. You want to run? I want to draw them away." He pointed at a nearby asteroid field. "We go in there, shut down power signatures, make ourselves look like debris. But they'll follow." Vaelya stepped closer. "And what about the children?" "You'll take the refugee ship," Elias said. "My crew and I will draw them off. It's the only way." Her jaw tightened. "That's suicide." He looked at her. "It's duty." Vaelya reached out and touched his arm, just for a second. Her hand was cold, but steady. "If you die," she said, "I will carry your name to the stars." Elias smiled. "Just make sure you're alive to tell it." Preparations began immediately. Elias and a few of his crew would stay on the military cruiser. Vaelya and the children would be towed quietly through the debris field with signal dampeners. As the lights dimmed and the decoys activated, Elias stood at the front of his ship once more. He didn't feel fear. He felt something stronger, a reason to fight. The asteroid field loomed ahead like a maze of jagged teeth. Giant rocks spun silently through space, each one large enough to hide a ship or smash it into dust. Elias stared at the shifting stone landscape from his cruiser's bridge. This was no battlefield. It was a graveyard waiting to happen. But it was also their best chance. "Engines to minimum," Elias said. "All weapons offline. Signal scramblers active." His crew followed orders with tight hands and nervous glances. They knew the risk, but they also knew their captain wouldn't ask anything of them he wouldn't do himself, and so they followed him into the dark. Far behind them, Vaelya guided the refugee ship into the outer edge of the asteroid belt. The children were quiet now. Even the smallest of them could sense what was happening. Vaelya stood near the bridge window watching the cruiser vanish into the spinning rocks. She clenched her jaw. She had trusted very few beings in her life. Now she had to trust a human to face an entire fleet alone. Inside Elias's ship, the tension was sharp. The cruiser floated silently between drifting stone. No lights, no engine flare, just cold patience. The enemy fleet approached slowly, scanning the area. The lead ship sent out probes. One passed close to Elias's cruiser but didn't detect anything. The cloaking worked, for now. But Elias knew they couldn't just hide forever. "We need to make them believe we're running," he said. "One heat flare, then a hard drift left. They'll chase us and leave the refugee ship behind." "Sir," his engineer said, "if they catch us in this field." "They won't," Elias cut in. "We won't let them." He tapped the console. A sudden flare burst from the back of the cruiser, a fake engine blast. Immediately the enemy probes locked on. Within seconds, two of the warships surged forward, chasing the heat signature. The trap had worked, but the asteroids had other plans. One of the warships moved too fast. Its shield scraped a tumbling boulder, throwing off its path. It smashed into a wall of rock, breaking apart in a silent fireball. The other ship slowed down, more careful now. Elias smirked. "You're in our field now." He gave the signal. Hidden turrets popped open from the sides of his cruiser. Plasma cannons lit up. Explosive rounds flew through the field, using the rocks as cover. The enemy fired back, but their shots were wide. They weren't used to dogfighting in terrain like this. Elias's ship dove between stones, skimming dangerously close. He shouted to his pilot, Cut left, now up. Bring the flank around. The cruiser spun gracefully, using momentum and gravity, to loop under a drifting asteroid and land a hit straight on the enemy's bridge. It tore through the second ship's hull. Alarms blared. Enemy fighters spilled out, but Elias's crew was ready. Drones launched from under the ship's belly and swarmed them, forcing them to retreat or crash. Meanwhile, on the refugee ship, Vaelya watched from afar. She saw the blasts through the dark. She knew what they meant. Elias was fighting not to win, but to buy time. She couldn't sit still any longer. "I want direct comms with the human ship," she told her pilot, but the captain said not to. "Do it now." The screen lit up. Elias's face appeared bruised and bloody but alive. He smiled when he saw her. "You're supposed to be hiding," he said. "You're supposed to be dead," she replied. They both laughed, briefly. "Vaelya," Elias said, voice steady. "When this is over, there's something I want to ask you." She looked at him through the static. "Then survive, human," she said. "So I can answer." The connection cut, and Elias turned back toward the enemy. He wasn't done yet. The enemy's main ship hovered just outside the asteroid field, its massive shadow blocking distant stars. Its commander sat in a cold, silent chamber, eyes locked on the battle feed. He had underestimated the human. That mistake had already cost him 2 ships. But now, he was done waiting. "Send the order," he growled. "Unleash the seeker drones. Find the female." The drones launched, thin, fast, and nearly invisible. They weren't built for attack. They were built to search, to detect hidden energy, to find those trying to disappear. Their only mission was to locate the refugee vessel, and the one they called the Traitor Guardian. Meanwhile, Vaelya was pacing. The children were safe for now, tucked into a shielded compartment deep in the ship. But her heart wasn't calm. Not while Elias was still inside the field, fighting alone. She had been trained to guard life, to protect peace, but watching someone else choose death so she could survive? That shook her more than any blade ever had. Her second-in-command, a soft-voiced alien named Niall, approached her. "You care for him," he said. Vaelya looked away. "I owe him." Niall smiled faintly. "You don't pace like someone who owes a debt. You pace like someone afraid to lose what they've never had." Vaelya didn't reply. She couldn't. Suddenly, a red light flashed on the control board. The ship's AI voice whispered, "Unidentified scans approaching, multiple signals." Her blood turned cold. The Seekers had found them. "Power down all systems," she ordered. No noise, no heat, but it was too late. The drones had already marked them. Back on the human cruiser, Elias saw the warning pop up. Enemy movement detected. Course shift, targeting the refugee ship. His chest tightened. "They're going after her." He turned to his weapons officer. "Prepare the main cannon." "Sir, that's a power drain. You fire that and we lose shields." "I know," Elias said. "Do it anyway." The cannon charged. The cruiser shifted, breaking from the rocks, flying into open space. The enemy saw the flash too late. The blast tore through the path of the Seekers. 2 drones exploded. The rest scattered, but the location had already been revealed. The enemy's last warship began moving fast, straight toward Vaelya. Elias made his decision. "Divert all energy to engines," he said. "We're going after them." His pilot stared. "We won't survive a frontal run." "Doesn't matter, she will." The cruiser pushed forward, battered and glowing, chasing down the larger ship. They flew like a missile, ignoring warning pings, ignoring failing systems. Elias stood on the bridge like a statue made of fire. "They're going to reach her," one officer said. Elias narrowed his eyes. "Not if I reach them first." On the refugee ship, Vaelya was no longer standing still. She raced through the corridors, heading to the ship's rear launch bay. Niall followed, confused. "What are you doing?" he called. "I'm ending this," she said. She entered the bay, grabbed a drop pod, and loaded her spear inside. Her armor adjusted automatically, sealing tight. She looked once more toward the direction Elias had gone. She whispered something in her native tongue. Then she launched. The pod burst from the ship, a streak of silver flying across the stars. The enemy didn't notice it in time. By the time they did, It was already crashing into their hull. Vaelya landed like a meteor. Inside the enemy warship, alarms screamed. She tore through corridors, her spear spinning, her fists slamming into guards. She wasn't hiding anymore. She wasn't running. She had come to end this with her own hands. And she wasn't leaving without Elias. The enemy ship shuddered as Vaelya stormed through it like a flame through dry wood. Sirens howled. Soldiers scrambled. But none of them were ready for her. She fought with purpose, not anger. Her spear moved like it had a will of its own, sweeping through armor, breaking weapons, clearing her path toward the command deck. Her mind wasn't calm. It was focused. She didn't just come to stop the warship. She came to find Elias. Meanwhile, the human cruiser was nearly at breaking point. Panels burst open. Fire rolled across the walls. The ship had taken 3 direct hits. Shields were gone. Power was fading. But Elias was still standing, teeth clenched, voice firm. "Push forward," he ordered. His crew obeyed. Their loyalty wasn't just to Earth anymore. It was to him. As the ship neared the enemy vessel, Elias stood in front of the blast doors. He was ready to launch a boarding pod, even if he had to go alone. But the moment he reached the airlock, a sudden message burst through the internal comms. "Captain Elias Trent." He froze. It was her voice. "Vaelya?" He answered. "I'm inside their ship," she said. Her voice was sharp but steady. "Don't launch. I'm coming to you." "You're what?" "They were targeting me," she said. "So I brought the war to them." Elias blinked, a slow smile forming despite the chaos. "Remind me to never argue with you." She didn't laugh. "You might not get the chance." In the enemy's command center, Vaelya burst through the final gate. The alien commander stood there waiting, flanked by 2 armored elites. His eyes narrowed. "I told them you'd return," he said. "You Guardians always come back for the ones you think you failed." "I didn't fail them," Vaelya replied. She raised her spear. "I failed myself." The elites charged. Vaelya moved like wind. She slid low, kicked one off balance, drove her weapon through the other. Blood sprayed the walls. The commander fired his plasma pistol. The shot grazed her side but didn't stop her. She reached him, grabbed his arm, and slammed him against the console. "You lost the moment you hunted children," she whispered. Then, she struck. Outside, the enemy warship's weapons suddenly powered down. Elias stared at the screen. "What the hell just happened?" One of his crew gasped. "Sir, internal systems are going offline. The enemy vessel, it's stopping." He knew. She did it. Within minutes, a small escape shuttle detached from the enemy ship. It drifted across space toward Elias's cruiser. His team locked onto it instantly and opened the docking bay. When the hatch hissed open, Vaelya stood there, her armor cracked, blood on her shoulder, but alive. Elias rushed forward and caught her before she could. "Fall, you came back," he said softly. She looked up at him. "You didn't run. That means something." He smiled. "You did save the day." "No," she whispered. "I just made the same choice you did." Their eyes met, something unspoken finally settling between them. Not just respect, not just alliance, something stronger. Back on the refugee ship, the children cheered as the remaining enemy ships retreated. The danger had passed, but no one forgot the price that was nearly paid. That night, Elias stood beside Vaelya in the medical bay. She was resting, her spear leaning beside the wall. He looked at her and spoke quietly. "When I said I had something to ask you, I meant it." Her eyes opened slowly. "Ask," she said. But he didn't speak yet. He just sat beside her, his fingers brushing hers, because some questions didn't need words. Not yet. Days passed, though no one counted them the same way anymore. The enemy fleet had vanished beyond the outer rim, defeated, scattered, afraid to return. The refugee ship and Elias's cruiser now floated in peaceful orbit around a quiet moon. Repairs had begun. Children played again. Laughter slowly returned to halls once filled with alarms and fear. Captain Elias Trent stood at the edge of the landing bay, watching a cargo pod get lifted into place. The sun of the nearby system cast a warm glow over the metal floor, and for once, he wasn't covered in smoke or blood. Just sweat, and a little peace. "Captain." He turned. Vaelya stood behind him, dressed not in armor, but in a soft robe, of deep green. Her markings still glowed faintly, but her posture was relaxed, almost calm. Her injuries had healed faster than expected, though a thin scar remained above her side. She wore it like a badge. "I didn't expect you to be up," Elias said. "I didn't expect to survive," she answered. They shared a small smile. No words could fully capture everything they had fought through, but silence for once was comfortable. "The children asked for you," she said. "They call you the Shield Man." Elias chuckled. "That's better than what my old commander used to call me." "You changed something," Vaelya said, "not just for them, for me too." Elias stepped closer. "I didn't do it for medals or orders, I did it because someone had to." She nodded. "That's what makes it mean more." There was a pause. Then slowly, Vaelya reached into a small pouch at her side and pulled out a thin silver band. It was carved with delicate alien symbols wrapped in threads of dark metal. She held it out to him. "This is a Guardian's Bond token," she said. "It's offered only once, to someone who stood without fear when others would flee." Elias looked at it, then at her. "You sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." He took it gently. In that moment, it didn't matter that they came from different worlds, different species, different stars. What mattered was that they had chosen each other, not out of duty, not out of survival, but because they believed in something better. Later that evening, a small gathering took place in the shared chamber. Human crew and alien refugees stood together. The children carried little flowers made of folded cloth and wire, gifts for the people who had kept them safe. Niel spoke first. "We have no homeland left, but we have family here." Then Elias stepped forward. "We didn't just protect a ship, we protected a future." When he finished, Vaelya joined him. "We are not just survivors," she said. "We are something stronger, we are hope." The room was silent, not out of formality, but out of respect. The next day, a long-range transmission came through. Nearby planet, neutral and uninhabited, had offered settlement rights for the refugees. Safe soil, clean water, and a fresh start. The children cheered when they heard the news. Elias walked with Vaelya as the preparations began. "You could stay with them," she said. "I could. Or you could come with me," she added, softer now. He stopped walking. "Are you asking?" She nodded. "I'm tired of guarding the past," she said. "I want to build something new." He didn't answer with words. He just took her hand. The stars stretched wide above them, endless, beautiful, and unknown. But for the first time, neither of them were walking into it alone.